Vanachare Jamuna Tira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihare Kunja Bihare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtottara Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Karantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Itai Gaura Premanandi. Oh glories to the assembled devotees. Oh glories to the assembled devotees. Oh glories to the assembled devotees. Oh glories to Shishi Guru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, entitled The Summon Bonon, Chapter 4, entitled The Atrocities of King Kamsa, text number 4. Tam aha brataram devi. 5? 4 was yesterday? How come? Huh? We did 4 yesterday. Great. Sorry. Text number 5. Bahavo himsita bhrata Shishaba pavakopama Tvaya daiva nisristena Putri kaika pradiyatam Bahavo himsita bhrata Shishava pavakopama Tvaya daiva nisristena Putri kaika pradiyatam. Please chant. Bahava, many, himsitaha, kill out of envy, brataha, my dear brother, shishabaha, small children, pavaka upamaha, all of them equal to fire in brightness and beauty. Tvaya, by you, Daiva Nisrestena, as spoken by destiny, Putrika, daughter, Eka, one, Pradiyatam, give me as your gift. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. My dear brother, by the influence of destiny, you have already killed many babies, each of them as bright and beautiful as fire. But kindly spare this daughter, give her to me as your gift. Purport. Here we see that Devaki first focused Kansa's attention on his atrocious activities, his killing of her many sons. Then she wanted to compromise with him by saying that whatever he had done was not his fault, but was ordained by destiny. Then she appealed to him to give her daughter, to give her the daughter as a gift. Devaki was the daughter of a Kshatriya and knew how to play the political game. In politics, there are different methods of achieving success. First, repression, dhamma. Then compromise, sama. Then asking for a gift, dana. Devaki adopted the policy of repression by directly attacking Kamsa for having cruelly, atrociously killed her babies. Then she compromised by saying that this was not his fault, and then she begged for a gift. As we learn from the history of the Mahabharata or Greater India, the wife and daughters of the ruling class, the Kshatriyas, knew the political game. But we never find that woman was given the post of chief executive. This is in accordance with the injunctions of Manu Samhita. But unfortunately, Manu Samhita is now being insulted. And the Aryans, the members of Vedic society, cannot do anything. Such is the nature of Kali Yuga. Nothing happens unless ordained by destiny. Tasyaiva hetu prajate takovido nalaivyate jat brahmatan uparyadha tallabhyate dukkhavat anyatha sukham kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. Bhagavatam 1.5.18. Devaki knew very well that because the killing of her many children has been ordained by destiny, Kamsa was not to be blamed. There was no need to give good instructions to Kamsa. Upadeshu hi murkhanam prakopaya nasantaye. Thank you. Chanika Pandit. If a foolish person is giving good instructions, he becomes more and more angry. Moreover, a cruel person is more dangerous than a snake. A snake and a cruel person are both cruel, but a cruel person is more dangerous because although a snake can be charmed by mantras and subdued by herbs, a cruel person cannot be subdued by any means. Such was the nature of Kamsa. Umagyana timirandasya jananjana shalakaya chaksur ummilitam yena tasmai Sri Gurube Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Rama Swami iti namine. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaura Bani Pracharina Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyadi Satarini. Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhu Vyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namo. So, there's very fascinating things that Prabhupada have touched in the purport. And in the session also, we're going to be exposed to something also very fascinating, which is we're going to see Kamsa showing some aspects of some sort of moral compass. And how it's also here, how it's explained how Devaki, being a Kshatriya lady, she has this capacity of knowledge of how to properly manipulate or use diplomacy, the way of speaking, to be able to obtain some of her purposes. Part of the theme that we're going to be touching in this, some of the important aspects, at least the one that really came up to me, was this balance between morality and self-interest. And that is it's basically two principles that are constantly in tension, or that create this type of tension. In fact, throughout the history of modern society, even from the time it was very much discussed by Plato, and during those times, all the way till now, there is this almost conflict of what is the right thing, what is this confrontation or tension between, not necessarily contradiction, but there's this tension that is there. If living morally is the right thing for your self-interest, and how both things, according to my self-interest, then the moral principles that I follow and that right for me get basically adjusted. And then we have this whole thing in modern terms that is called moral relativity or something like that. That you see there's so many different moral values that are there in different places. And not only that, how this self-interest dictates how we behave and act in society, and how we judge others and how we interact, the whole thing. And it's supposed, when we talk about moral principles, we know by the scriptures that moral principles are regulated by dharma, by religion. Religion is there. Sometimes religiosity or dharma is described as moral codes for human beings. So are the moral codes that dictate how to act. The term of how to properly act according to according to the codes of religion is called sadachar, which means, etiquette and behaviors, proper etiquette and behaviors, sadachar. But one thing that we find is that knowing the codes of religion not necessarily still don't necessarily protect or guarantee that there will be a proper action by the person who follows that, or the person who actually knows the codes of religion. Because we're going to see very soon that demons such as Kamsa, and then we see, when we hear the presence of Lord Ramachandra, all these powerful demons like Ravana, Kamsa, Hiranyakashipu, they were quite acquainted with all these codes, these, dharmic rules. In fact, not only that were acquainted, they were actually very knowledgeable, even with transcendental truth, even with things that were, more in terms of, you're not the body, the laws of karma, etc., etc. And still, it didn't help them in acting in a way that was demoniac, contrary to religious principles. We see in the case of Jarasandha, he was very charitable to Brahmanas. He won't refuse to give charity to a Brahmana. That's why Krishna created this strategy to kill Jarasandha. He said, that he took Bhima and Arjuna and himself disguised as Brahmanas to approach Jarasandha, and then because Jarasandha won't decline ever, to give charity to the Brahmanas. So even though Jarasandha could recognize these guys are not Brahmanas, look at those muscles, and the scars that they have, these guys are Kshatriyas, but because they come as Brahmanas, then he extended his welcome and asked them, what can I do for you? What kind of charity can I give? But Jarasandha couldn't control himself. So even all those religious principles, they not necessarily can help someone, act appropriately according to these religious principles. Even that. Or sort of deter them to act demoniacally. Some might say, well, you need to learn the religious principles by approaching someone or by having the directions and the guidance of someone who is a tattvadarshi, tadvidhi paripratena pariprashnena sevaya verse. You have to have a spiritual master who guides you But one may say, well, what about Duryodhana? He had the association and the guidance of grandfather Bhishma, one of the 12 Mahajans. Just like the Pandavas, the Kauravas have the same association, the same guidance. They have both Duryodhana and Yudhishthira have the same guru, the cool guru who was Kripacharya. They both have Dronacharya as the military guru. And this was personalities actually, Drona, Bhima, Vidura. This was self-realized persons. And still, he couldn't help himself to act demoniacally. So then the reason that we understand that what compromises or what doesn't allow someone, even in the situation of having all these arrangements to understand and to follow proper religious principles, proper moral codes, and don't act demoniacally, the reason that is there is when you have selfishness. As long as this selfishness, in whatever degree of selfishness we have, when we see very demoniac people, then the selfishness is very, very prominent. But any presence of selfishness can derail one from the path of proper behavior, a proper following of Krishna's principles, proper sadachar. Therefore, that principle is single when we talk about pure devotional service. Lord Chaitanya prays in his Shikshastaka that please let me have this selfless devotion, ahaitukiya pratiyata. That, what is it? No. Nadananda yonanda sundarin kavitam vajagat isha kamaye ahaituki apartiyata. Yeah. No, what is it? No, I'm confusing two verses. The Mama jammani jammanishware babatar ahaituki twaye. Jammani jammanishware, birth after birth. Please give me this ahaituki devotion. We hear from Sutta Goswami how he qualifies Parandharma. It's not just devotional service to the Supreme Lord, but devotional service that is qualified as a haituki and apatiyata. That's Parandharma. And that's what actually gives satisfaction to the self. So, as long as the selfishness, then we're vulnerable to fall down or deviate from religious principles, and or let's say not religious principles, but from this Parandharma or this supreme religious principle. As long as this selfishness, we're actually vulnerable to this demoniac type of pull. And when we hear demoniac is when we go against Krishna and Krishna's instructions, Krishna's relationship, when we go away from that. That's a definition of demoniac. So it's very important to see this. And in the case of Kamsa, although quite knowledgeable, although quite educated in the principles of Dharma, he, because of this extreme selfishness, in which he was able to rationalize for a selfish person with demoniac tendencies, the supreme religion for them is whatever is they consider the interest. And then they rationalize, that dictates what is right and what is wrong. So for Kamsa, the right thing to do was to protect himself. Then kill children, kill women, kill this, kill that. It doesn't become an issue. Because the right thing is that he have to protect himself. He have to protect his self-interest. We see that in society. We see that in demoniac society. We see it nowadays, how morality, moral principles, moral values are basically terribly compromised. America is supposed to be a very religious country. It's a Christian, it's a mostly Judeo-Christian country. And but when it comes, the history of this country is filled with terrible things done to others. On the plane of doing the right thing. And, also for, on the name of religion. Actually, we don't, not necessarily America, we see that in the history of the modern world. In the name of religion, some of the most atrocious things have been committed. Basically, races has been wiped out in the name of religion. So, this is not religion. This is what Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, that for a demon, then what irreligiosity is religion and religion is religiosity. Sorry, irreligiosity is religion and religion is irreligiosity. So they have the whole thing upside down. So Devaki have to deal with that, have to deal with Kamsa, an extremely selfish person who have no moral compass. That basically, so she have to use politics. She have to use diplomacy. And that's in one sense how you deal, among all kinds of politicians and things like that, because it's always self-interest. So when there's self-interest, you have to negotiate. There's competitions, there's negotiation, there's compromises, all these things. This is the material world. This is struggle. The big dog is, how you say, the bigger dog rules. So you have to sort of like move yourself into that. Not in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there's no competition. In the spiritual world, everything is centered on Krishna. So
is about what pleases Krishna. So Prabhupada explains that the gopis, they understand, oh, Radharani is the best worshipper of Krishna. Therefore, they make their business to have Radharani and Krishna together. There's no envy. So that's the spiritual world. But in the material world, you have to deal with that. You have to deal with that. You have to deal with the fact that there is selfishness involved. The principle for us as sadhakas is that we are in the process of eliminating selfishness. We are in the process of becoming selfless. And the process of doing that is by the principles of sadhana. We practice sadhana. We're sadhakas. So by sadhana bhakti, then we become free from all the unwanted things that basically nourish this selfishness. So we're being given the hearing and chanting of the holy names. We've been given the hearing the Bhagavatam regularly. We've been given deity worship of the deities. We've been given the association of devotees, and we've been given the holy places. Krishna has provided that as the most powerful means to becoming purified for those unwanted things. Chief among those is hearing and chanting of the holy names. So we're in that process, and we have to focus on that and understanding how this self-interest can actually hijack our advancing in Krishna consciousness. We always have to watch on those things. There's provisions. We can't eliminate self-interest just like that. Okay, let me be selfish, selfless. It doesn't work like that. It's a gradual process that has to be regulated and guided by, a spiritual authority, by a spiritual master. And so there will be provisions, but the point is that we have to be constantly aware of it and constantly be mindful and work on the principles that Lord Chaitanya gives us, the Trinara Pisuni Chena Tarora Pisa Hishtuna Amani Namadidana Kirtanija Sadahari. They all targeting our selfishness. Humility, because self-centeredness means I am and this is mine. It's about being God. It's about, like Ravindra Shri Prabhu say, we all have our little God projects. So it's about that. So humility is understanding, no, Krishna is God and I'm a very tiny speck. So humility, tolerance goes right at self-interest, selfishness. Because tolerance means you have to live with others and you have to actually be open to give others a space, and then offer respect to others, and not expect respect to yourself. These are all things that are targeting our selfishness. So we cultivate those things. We keep an eye on these things. We keep an eye on our self-centeredness and selfishness. And like that, we can gradually progress. It's a fascinating subject matter that is very relevant in society nowadays. We see how much compromises are there of things that are so wrong. How much compromises are there on things that are obviously wrong? Like, we see something that happens, nowadays with children being separated from families. It's heart-wrenching, when you hear this type of things. And this is just an example of so many things that are happening. And these are done and supported by very religious persons. In fact, one of the politicians explained that in the Bible it is said, that we can do this. Like, doesn't matter if you're 1 year old, if you're breaking the law, if you come in illegally, well, the Bible says we should follow the law. So if you're not following the law, then we punish you regardless. We put you in jail, even if you're, a toddler, like that. So that's how demons, that's what demoniac mentality, that's what demoniac society does. That's what Kamsa did, because it's on the name of self-interest. And then so-called religious people say, yes, this is very good. So something very important to keep in mind. Any comments or questions? Krishna Archa. 6? 10, 4, 6. Okay, I read that verse and then we ask for questions. So text number 6. Nanuaham te hyavaraja dinahata sutta prabho datun arhasi mandaya ange man charanam prajam. Translation: My Lord, my brother, I am very poor, being bereft of all my children, but still I am your younger sister, and therefore it will be worthy for you to give me this child as a gift, this last child as a gift. So she's appealing to some whatever good nature may be there, but it's not going to happen because cancer is gone, demoniac. Govinda Ji Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. You said there is no competition in the spiritual world. Is that true?
Well, you said. Then what you said?
You said all the gopis are serving Radharani, which is true. We belong to Radharani's camp under Lalita Devi and Rupa Manjari, etc., etc. And there's 8 principal gopis of Radharani and Tunga, Vidya, Lalita, Sudevi, etc., etc. But there are 8 other principal gopis which are rivals of Radharani, Chandravali, Shaibya, etc. And there's very, very fierce competition, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like everything we see. It's not the type of competition that we have here, which is basically, is centered on selves, on self-interest. It's about me. But in in Krishna's, in the spiritual world is centered on Krishna. It's about Krishna. What makes Krishna happy? So, so at the end, when you peel it out, when you go to the, when you take all the layers, you see that they only want.
When you take
Krishna's
Yogamaya,
happiness. Yeah.
the coverings of Yogamaya.
Exactly. So
everyone
everything
is serving Krishna, just like Krishna is very, very grateful to Jatila and Kutila and Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu is Radharani's husband.
Right.
Right? So he's a main problem for Krishna. And Jatila, who's Abhimanyu's mother, and she's always suspecting Krishna, that she's up to no good. And she's always around her daughter-in-law, Radharani, so it's very suspicious of him. And she's always trying to stop the meeting between Krishna and Radharani. So this is an obstacle in Krishna's pastime, but it just enhances the desire for their meeting. And although externally it looks like it's an obstacle, if you take Yogamaya away, Krishna is very, very grateful to her and to him, Abhimanyu, because they enhance the Leelas. So similarly, these Chandravali and so on, all these different gopis, they enhance and they are magnifold Radharani's, so to say, worth, as the dearest out of all. If there's only Radharani, there's no competition, then you can't compare to her to anything.
Right.
You see?
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that out. Yes, there is competition, but there's a different type of competition.
It's a Krishna conscious competition.
It's a Krishna conscious competition. It's about Krishna's happiness, Krishna center.
Yeah, very nice point, Govind Prabhu told. I remember that Srila Prabhupada was explaining on this point. There is a very nice thing. He used one word, duhe hue huda hudi. Duhe hue huda hudi. Like in Krishna, there is a competition. Means how can you please? Krishna wants to please Radharani. Radharani wants to please Krishna. So there is a competition. So like that, duhe hue huda hudi. That is how Prabhupada is explaining. That's a very nice point. And here, question. Thing is that he says, Devaki says, this is also in purport, it is mentioned. It is because of destiny. So whatever happened is because of, it is not your fault. She's telling to Kansa, because what happened because of destiny. So, how is that, I remember one time Prabhupada was telling in a flight, I think one devotee was traveling with him. Then he did some mistake. Then he said, Prabhupada, because it is by Krishna's desire, everything happened. Then Prabhupada said, you nonsense, don't bring Krishna into your foolishness. Something like that. So sometimes, we blame, whatever destiny is happening, it is happening like that.
Well,
so you can add something more on this.
In the case of Devaki, she didn't do anything, but she could understand that what happened to these children was because of destiny. It was what it's meant to be. From Kamsa's side, then it's his choice. He made a choice. He made a choice, and he have to be accountable to that choice. The same thing. Destiny puts something in our path. We're meant to actually, suffer a particular or enjoy something or suffer something. According to how we make the choices when those things that are destined to us happen, then we dictate what's going to happen next for us. So suppose I have, I lost my job. Circumstantially, I have to go through some suffering, something. And then I make a choice. I can actually, what do I do when that situation hits? Then I have to make some choices. I can do, okay, let me get another job. Or maybe I can make a choice. Well, oh, I'm so depressed, I'm just going to go to the bar and drink, till I, like that. So I'm making a choice according to the circumstances. So Kamsa was presented with that choices. He was told, you're going to be killed by the 8th child. Something is coming to him. And he made a choice, I'm going to kill them all. So from his side, he is responsible. And Prabhupada says to the devotee, don't bring Krishna, that's your nonsense. You make choices. So, but from the perspective of Devaki, seeing what happened to those children, it did happen by destiny. Is that all right? Okay. Any other question, Krishna Archana?
You were highlighting the various teachings of Lord Chaitanya that target selfishness, which is the pivotal point you were pointing out for pulling one away from adherence to religious principles. So it seems that, at least in hearing this past time, the tolerance level that someone has when confronted with somebody else veering far from religious principles is indicative of their own functioning being such that they're not adhering to any selfishness, which one sees in this particular pastime. So I guess I would want to ask the question that being confronted, if one is confronted with one's tolerance being tested, what is the best recourse for one's action?
I think I would say we always have to be sort of introspective. You just keep that in mind. That if something is disturbing my consciousness, then I first have to look at me inside. So if I'm feeling, if there's some disturbance, caused by someone else's action, then why am I being disturbed? What is that makes me disturbed? Because in one sense, the problem is the person's problem, the other persons that are breaking religious principles. So then if I come to understand what is that makes me disturb, disturb my consciousness, then I can address that, and I can, sort of, like Robert Maharaj says, touch. When something becomes, sort of like perplexing or disturbed, then you pause and then touch touch back or put, I just, how I said it? Huh? It's like a reset, yeah. You go back to the proper position, or, the spiritual conception. So then we can actually be more tolerant. It's almost like a pause. So obviously, easy to say, it doesn't happen like that necessarily. But we cultivate, whenever we're able to become aware and turn the side towards ourselves internally, then we do it. And as we do it, it's a cultivation. We start to become more acquainted and more better at doing that. I was just reading something that, in terms of this thing of passing like a judgment, a moral judgment, that there's this social psychologists, they sort of came up with this study that shows that most people they have a complete different standard of judging some action done by someone else and the same action done by ourselves. And then they put the example. Suppose Joe is walking and then trip on a stone and falls down. Then Mary goes and say, Joe is so, clumsy and careless. He doesn't, distracted, that, he trips. If the same thing happens to herself, to Mary, then she will think, who put this stone in here? It's like, what a thoughtless person can put that obstacle in here that I trip, So, in general, this social psychologist is saying that we pass a judgment on a particular action. They say that it's the actor witness principle, like that. That as an actor, the judgment that you pass on a circumstance or an obstacle is about the more of the circumstances. It's about the circumstance. And when it's about, as a witness, as a third person, we tend to do it as a character fault. And so we have to observe, that's what I'm saying, we have to be constantly in contact with our baggage, what things makes us, sort of like see things and understand things and process things that are not necessarily the right. It's unwanted stuff. It's more on our condition that makes us see things. So we always look inside. It's the first thing, in short. Is that right? Okay. Anything else, or we stop? Jitendra Prabhu. Then we close the class.
Prabhupada said is when bhakti is present, purity arises, it's the natural. And I remember, at the book distributors, they called it transcendental competition. So I don't know how you understood that, but, and then another thing is this country, there's a saying, it was founded by slave owners who wanted to be free.
Yeah.
So the very basis of it is a sign of one group trying to lord it over another group for their own selfish aggrandizement.
Yeah, that's the history.
Thank
you, bro. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.